Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight as we talk about UVM's Guaranteed Admission Program. My name is Nicola Willier-Fenton. I work in UVM's Continuing and Distance Education Department, and we're going to introduce Kristen Kabashian, who's with us as well, learn a little bit more about how she interacts with our Guaranteed Admission students. Just a few logistics. Folks joining us on YouTube tonight, welcome. Please put any questions into the chat box. We'll keep an eye on those, and we will do our best to answer those questions tonight. We're going to pause when we do see your questions and get to them. We will also have another opportunity at the end to make sure that we've answered all of your questions. And Kelly will also put our email address into the chat tonight if there's any follow-up that you may have. We are recording tonight's webinar session, and we'll share the information and the recording out afterwards. So I wanted to, I'll introduce Kristen Kabashian in just a moment. We'll go over introductions, and then we're going to talk about changing the story about a gap year. There's a lot of information and a lot of confusion for students as to what in the world are they going to do in the fall. And so we'll talk about one option here at the University of Vermont that is a guaranteed admission to the University of Vermont. And what does that look like? And in the new GAP program, which we call our Guaranteed Admission Program, there's a new Enrichment Learning Community that we're really excited to share about. And there's fully online GAP courses. So you absolutely have the most flexibility as you're considering what fall could look like. And we'll go over some of those logistics and the application process and talk about students as well. And as I mentioned, we have ample time for questions and answers tonight. So as I mentioned, my name is Nicola Willier-Fenton. I work in the Continuing and Distance Education Department. And joining me is Kristen Kabashian. Kristen, thank you for being with us tonight.
Good evening.
Kristen has an MS in College Student and Development and Counseling at Northeastern University, and she joins us from the Continuing and Distance Education Department, where she focuses on guaranteed admission student and pre-college advising. She works very closely with our pre-college community and our guaranteed admission students, among others. So I want to start just by setting the tone. There is a lot of confusion for students, and we can only imagine the uncertainty that students might be, and families might be feeling about the fall. Is it online? Is it on campus? Is it hybrid? Do I start in the fall? Do I defer? All of these questions keep circling around, and the media seems to be picking up on a variety of different options for students. So how do you possibly make a choice? And while we want to just offer an alternative to that gap year, traditionally gap years had been, traveling, heading to Europe, heading to other countries, doing service or in-service, volunteering. That likely isn't going to look the same coming this fall and in the next year. So is this an opportunity to change the idea around a gap year and set yourself up or your student up for success in their pursuit of a college career? Kristen, you do see all of our guaranteed admission students and a variety of pre-college students as they're considering what's next for them. A variety of students do take some time off before coming into UVM through the GAP program. Would you say that the reasons why they might do that or how they end up kind of circling back around to pursuing their career here at UVM?
Sure. Everyone comes with a different story, which is one of the great things about GAP students. And some of them do take that traditional or what might have been traditional gap year where they took a year to travel. Some have gone abroad and done a little exploratory studies, not necessarily academic, but more exploratory enrichment studies, and decided after that time off that they were mature enough and ready to take on academics at a higher education level. And so they came to us through the GAP program because I knew UVM is where they wanted to go. Others took time to work. Other students had to work, and then they were able to find their footing, and they wanted to start coming back to school, not necessarily in a full-time, fully committed capacity, but they wanted to start off a little slow and then build up.
And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the different students that we have seen come through and their unbelievable success stories. So what is the Guaranteed Admission Program at UVM? It has a long history. It was started in 1993. About 50% of GAP students matriculate into the University of Vermont. And then the statistics of their success are really outstanding. Between 70 and 80% of GAP students complete graduation within 4 to 6 years. Each of the colleges and schools here at the University of Vermont, from the business school to the environmental school to College of Arts and Sciences and Agricultural Life Sciences, all have courses that are incorporated into a GAP student's academic plan. And they're available through the academic year and in the summer too, so it really gives students an ample opportunity. And we're going to talk a few minutes about the GAP contract, but they're customized to meet the students' needs and the areas that they're interested in. And one of the things that I think is really amazing as students and families are thinking about the fall is the flexibility of the GAP program. It could be full-time, it could be part-time, because there may be at many students. So I've seen statistics over the last couple of years about the increasing number of students that work while in school. I worked when I was in college, and that was a couple years ago. And so the GAP program really allows flexibility for that course load. The other thing that I wanted to share that is new for this fall is a fully online GAP course option for folks as well. And super exciting is savings, is a 30% reduced tuition off the standard tuition rate for the online courses. And we'll talk a little bit more about the new Enrichment Learning Community and what that means. Kristen, we have so much more to share with students about the Guaranteed Admission Program. What kind of gets you excited about these new pieces to share and the opportunity for students?
Well, with regards to the new online offerings, I think that is really exciting for students who are considering UVM that might live out of state or might live in other parts of the state that are just not convenient to come to Burlington. They know ultimately they would like to come up here, but we do not have housing for guaranteed admission students, so that does pose a problem unless you want to get an apartment or sublet, somehow have some living situation up in Burlington. It does make it a slightly more difficult to come to campus. So it's a really exciting option for students that may have interest but don't have the convenience of living in Chittenden County or just right outside of Chittenden County. And I think that the online options are really accessible for a lot of students. I think that it gives them the opportunity to work, which many students in the GAP program do maintain a full or part-time job while they're taking classes. So it does provide that flexibility for them. And then, of course, the reduced tuition off of the academic year rate is fantastic.
And that's something that we haven't seen before in this program. So it's a really awesome opportunity for students and families as they're considering their options in the fall. And also new to our Guaranteed Admission program is the Catamount Enrichment Learning Community. And this is a virtual and an online community that will have all kinds of resources for students to be successful. One of the things that's really great about the Guaranteed Admission program is the learning tools and the study skills and the time management skills that are built into the Guaranteed Admission program. And so all of that is actually being enhanced in this Enrichment Learning Community. Kristen, you have seen so many students go through this program successfully. Why do you think some of those tools are so important for students as they're getting started, not only at UVM, but in the Guaranteed Admission program?
Sure. Well, I think that the transition from high school to college learning is very different. You are more accountable for yourself, and that doesn't necessarily come, students don't have that in their toolbox. So we're trying to provide them the resources and the tools to build that toolbox. I think that providing study skills, giving them time management skills, these are all really critical tools to have. I'm going to keep using the word tools, forgive me. But I think that is going to build, those are the building blocks for success in your classes. And especially with online, because you really have to be self-motivated. You have to keep yourself on task. You don't have that classroom experience to trigger certain things. So to have these resources available to keep you honest is just going to help you be more successful in the GAP program and then moving forward.
Thanks for that perspective. And I think it's really important, you've touched on some of these things, is that the Guaranteed Admission Program allows students to demonstrate that they are ready for this and that they are putting the work in and the time in, and really serious about their academic career. And it gives them an opportunity to earn college credit. And this is the thing that I think is really interesting for folks to consider as you're kind of weighing and considering the options for the fall, is that the options through the Guaranteed Admission Program are really really to your advantage, because you can, if you meet some of the requirements that we'll go through in a minute, you can ultimately enroll in an undergrad program at the University of Vermont, or our credits are incredibly transferable. They're credible. Our credits are credible. And so it's really an opportunity for you to get credits, get college experience under your belt while you're considering where you may go. And if UVM is the option, that's fantastic. But if you wanted to if you're exploring something else, you can take those credits with you. Can you just expand on that as an option for students as well,
Sure,
Kristen?
sure. 99% of the students who come into the GAP program are interested in matriculating or being admitted fully at UVM. It's a small percentage that do come in saying, I'm taking a little bit of time to do some exploration. I want to build some college credits. I don't want to just not maintain my academics during this time. So we try to identify classes that, like you said, Nicole, are very transferable. So there are classes that you will find at UVM that you will find at other institutions, and they will fit in one way, shape, or form. And if you know a school that you're interested in, I've actually looked at their requirements and have helped students identify courses so that they are very intentional with their decisions on what they're taking so that they can move it forward. And then if they find that really they love UVM and they love the courses, they like the faculty, they feel connected with other students, then we know that these classes are going to help them here as well.
And considering the fact that for the fall courses for this next upcoming academic year, the online courses are 30% off the standard tuition rate. So if you're not even sure, where you may want to go, this is an ideal situation for families to consider, as it is a savings, but it's also a guarantee for continuation of their college experience. So we've talked a little bit about students that come in through this program, and I really think that this is important to take a look at. This is just a few. There's been hundreds, but I just wanted to share that students, as Kristen said, come in through the Guaranteed Admission Program from all different angles, all different walks of life, and all different reasons. Some students, high school just wasn't their thing. They didn't really enjoy the experience. And so they may have just that concern that they might have the same experience in college. One of the gentlemen in the photo there, his name is Philip, he had that experience. He said, I just didn't really like high school. And so I was afraid of, making the commitment to college when I didn't think it was going to be a good experience. But coming in through the Guaranteed Admission Program completely changed his mind and opened him up to college is very different than high school. And it's been an incredible program. And some of our other students shown here too, May, she transferred. She went to a different school and said, this just wasn't the right fit for me. And she knew that UVM was something that she felt more connected to. And then also Gabrielle, she also kind of had that same experience. She felt like she didn't perform as well in high school, and so she was concerned that UVM wasn't an option for her. But this pathway allowed all of them to pursue their undergrad degree. And I don't have to tell you, Krista, these are the stories that you hear time and time again. And I speak with some of the students as I'm sharing some of their stories, and I hear things like the GAP program saved my life. I wouldn't be where I am, and oftentimes they're alumni now, and they're in jobs and positions and exploring their career, and they have said to me, I would not be here if it wasn't for the Guaranteed Admission Program. What does that tell you about why this program is so important?
I think it's important for these particular students. If I'm thinking of these two, just make me smile seeing their photos, by the way. It gives people chance a chance. It gives that, it opens doors for them. It expands their world, and I think it provides support, guidance. It allows them to take things at their own pace. It can be extremely intimidating being a first year student and taking 5 classes. You do not have to take 5 classes as a GAP student. You are very intentional with your course selection. You can take 2, 3, 4 classes. You do not have to overburden yourself, and you can give yourself the time and space to be successful and to really put your energy in all the right places. So I think that this program it gives that space for the students, and it does provide, provides a wonderful opportunity.
Absolutely. And they all have felt that, and I hear it time and time again, which is really inspiring that they persevered and continued on with that goal. Can you just walk us through some of the bullets here? And I know this is a lot for everybody to read, but Kristen, just kind of walk us through, what does it look like to be a guaranteed admission program student in terms of the things that you're trying to accomplish?
Sure. So the basics of the program is that if you are coming into a GAP contract, we develop a GAP contract, and the GAP contract identifies 18 credits worth of coursework. So you must complete a minimum of 18 credits, a maximum of 30 over 3 years. Most students try to do things in 2 semesters so that they can gain admission sooner. You can do like we said, you can do the GAP program either part-time or full-time. Full-time is like 4 classes. So it's still not the full 19 that undergraduate students would take. And then you will have to have maintained a minimum GPA of 2.8 or higher. And if you've completed the identified 18 credits and you have your GPA, then you submit an application, and it is a full approval process. So I don't know if we're going to go into this a little later, Nicole, but basically the contract is approved by multiple offices that check off the boxes. And so that at the end of the contract period, when you've completed your coursework and you have your GPA and you submit your application, then that's where the guaranteed part comes in.
And so more of the contract heavy lifting happens at the beginning of the process, is what it sounds like.
Correct. Yes.
That's great. Great. Thank you for clarifying that. And so this is where we've been talking about that 30% savings off the standard tuition rate for the upcoming school year. Can you just walk us through what we're seeing here and the difference between in-state and out-of-state? And then we're seeing kind of in the column to the right is the additional savings for the online tuition. Just walk us through what we're seeing.
Sure. So if you are a Vermont resident, you can look at the screen and see what you are charged per credit. So each class at UVM holds a certain amount of credits. Most classes are 3 credits. So if you're taking a 3-credit class, you will pay the Vermont resident tuition times 3. If you are out-of-state student, that is anybody who has not lived in Vermont for over a year. So that's really important. If you're thinking about the program but you haven't lived here for a year, you might want to weigh that option to see if you can get in-state tuition. But then all the courses are charged at a per credit rate, and up to 12 credits. Most students, like I said, stay about between 9 and 12 per semester, so you're paying it per credit. And then there are fees on top of that. That is a UVM comprehensive fee, and that goes towards things like the gym. Sorry, that was really hard to find. What's that word? Because I haven't seen it in so long.
I know.
Yeah, and a variety of other things. So and then with the online classes, same thing. It is charged per credit. So you're not paying a flat fee. You're paying per credit. So if you take 2 classes, 6 credits, 6 credits total, then you're paying for 6 credits.
And the information you have below too, I'm sure you get this question quite often, is there any financial assistance available? And I know these our GAP students would be considered a non-degree student. Just walk us through what is even available.
Sure. So GAP students are still considered continuing distance education students. We are their dean's office. So with that, there is no federal financial aid available. However, if you are in the state of Vermont, we have the Vermont Student Assistance Corporation, which we tell students to look into because they do have some non-degree grants that are available. I suspect there are similar agencies in other states, so I always recommend students do a little bit of research to see what kind of non-degree grants are out there for them to look into.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. I know we've kind of zipped through some of the information. We have a few more people joining us on YouTube right now, so I wanted to welcome some of the new folks that have joined us. We've been talking about UVM's Guaranteed Admission Program, what we call a GAP, as an alternative to a gap year. This is an opportunity for students to prove their academic readiness, to gain credits under their belt, to really have a college experience. And oftentimes, and I'm going to go back to some of these points, oftentimes it can be part-time. It can be part-time courses, it can be full-time, it can be fully online courses. And as you were seeing when you joined us on the slide that had some of the tuition rates and the credit rates this year for the online GAP portion in the new academic year that's coming up, there's a 30% reduced tuition off the standard tuition rate for the online GAP program. And there's a new Enrichment Learning Community that is being launched and actively worked on, and I'm really excited to see that being rolled out for our students. So I do want to put out to any of the folks joining us on YouTube, if you have any questions, if you're parents, if you're students, or a little bit of both that are joining us, to if there's anything that we can answer, if there's anything you're curious about, if you are interested in the Guaranteed Admission Program. Kristen, can you walk through the timing in terms of if some of the people viewing tonight, if they're interested, what is that application process like?
Sure. Students should go onto our website and submit an application. With the application, we do ask that you include your transcripts. They can be completely unofficial. They do not have to be official transcripts. We would like to see high school through grade 12. So if students are applying in their last semester of high school, we want to at least see what classes they are in during that semester, so we can identify whether or not there are any deficiencies in the minimum entrance requirements. Also, if you've taken any college level classes, we want to see those transcripts as well. So again, they can be unofficial, but we do need that those documents to make sure that you have all the necessary requirements. And then if you've taken college level classes, we want to make sure you're not retaking them. Because that would just be a waste of your time and energy. We want to be intentional with those course selections. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, can you talk about that a little bit more about the course selection? Because I know that you work so closely with students to find what they're interested in and where they may want to go with their college career. Can you just expand on that a little bit more?
Sure. Some students come in with a very clear idea as to where they want to head, but then there's a lot of students that come in and say, I think I want this, or I think I want that. So we will have a conversation around why they think that. I will ask questions about strengths and where they think they really excel, and then also discuss any deficiencies they feel that they have. And with that information, based on the college of interest, the major of interest, strengths and weaknesses, we will discuss course selection. And obviously, again, if you come in with past coursework, we'll put those to the side, but then we'll discuss the other classes. And those classes are typically general education requirements. We don't tend to get too specific into a major because, again, you may think you want something, but then you will sidestep once you get in. You might find a different passion elsewhere. So we will identify general education requirements because most colleges have similar requirements. So a humanities course in College of Arts and Sciences is a humanities course in the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. Social science, same thing. So with the contract, we will identify those core areas. We won't be so specific to say history 12 or something. We won't say the specific class 9 times out of 10, but we will give the general education topic area like quantitative reasoning, which is our math and computer science, that sort of stuff. And we'll identify 18 credits worth of classes in those areas.
And then you were starting to, before we went into a little bit about courses, you were just kind of rounding out that application process. So once the transcripts are in and you have the discussion about courses, what's next for students?
So once we receive the application, we will set up a time to meet and talk and have these conversations about courses, and we will fill out the contract. And once the contract is completed, then it goes from us to the dean's office of the college that you are considering. From there, they will sign the contract. If there are questions, it'll come back and we might have to make some modifications. But if everything's all well and fine, they will sign it and it will go to the admissions office. Admissions will review it, make sure that they're looking at the same documents. They'll make sure minimum entrance requirements are being satisfied as well, or have been satisfied as well, and they'll sign off of it, and then it comes back, and voila, you're in GAP.
And then I'm just going to zip back to some of those requirements as well for folks that maybe joined us when we had been talking about this. These are the things that students are working on, and Kristen advises them. So you're seeing the person who you, as a student or parent, who your child could be working with. And so I'm going to ask you, Kristen, you work with so many different students, but it always seems like the guaranteed admission students have a special spot, I think, in your heart. Why do you feel so close to these students? And we all want to see all our students succeed, but I think there's something special about this program and our students.
Well, that's it. I think they come in with, like I said, so many different backgrounds, so many different stories, and you hear and you feel for every single one of them. So I want them to succeed. I want them to get the most out of their experience here. I am rooting for them. I am their cheerleader, and I just want everyone to kind of get as much out of their experiences, and positive. I want them to have positive experiences, because they may have come from other institutions where you mentioned before, they just did not have a good experience. They didn't feel like they fit in. We want to make them feel like they're home, that UVM is their home, and yeah, it's a joy. I feel so, I'm just elated every time I get the confirmation that they're in. It's just like sending you off. It's great. It's a great feeling.
It shows your relationship with all the students and the feedback that they provide as to the experience that working one-on-one with you and our team as well. And so people, I do see a few folks floating in as well a little bit after we've been talking about some of these things. So I just want to touch on as well the Enrichment Learning Community. So this is new for the fall. Their new cohort of guaranteed admission students coming in are going to have even more support systems surrounding them. They always have, but we're going to extend that and increase that to make sure that our students have as much success as we possibly can. And so there's just a few things that the Enrichment Learning Community will provide for students. And we've been talking about, it's the opportunity to earn college credit. So what we've been really wanting to share with people is that maybe not a gap year. Don't take a pause on your pursuit for college and your career and your academic pathway. People come in to the University of Vermont in all different ways, and the guaranteed admission program is kind of that conduit for people to come into UVM from a variety of different backgrounds. and a variety of different points in terms of their readiness. And so this is the program that supports students to get them on their path to academic success. And we really think that it's an exciting opportunity for students to consider for the fall. And as we mentioned earlier, there's a 30% reduced tuition off the standard tuition rate for the online GAP program, which allows the ultimate flexibility, because if students want to take some courses from home and they want to take part-time or full-time, they will still be on the pursuit for their academic career. I do want to just put a shout out to anybody who on YouTube that might have any questions. I know that we haven't had any tonight, but maybe that's because we've just covered everything. I can't imagine that's true, but
So
if
thorough.
there's something that you wanted to ask Kristen or about course selection, we have a lot of information, and I'll ask Kelly maybe just to put a link up in the chat box directly to the Guaranteed Admission program page. It's on our website at learn.uvm.edu. There's a lot of information on the GAP page. And in our blog, too, there's a lot of stories. I know we showed you a few of the students that we were talking about back here, and you can read about Philip's and Gabrielle's and May's story as to why they chose to come through the Guaranteed Admission program on their path to their college education in the University of Vermont, and what that has meant to them and what that experience was like. And so please do take some time to take a look at the Guaranteed Admission program page on our website, read some of these stories of the students, and see if this is you, and see if this is your student, that maybe this might be the right path into the University of Vermont for you or your student as well. Looks like we're pretty quiet on the questions, so I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us and taking some time out of your busy schedules to learn about the Guaranteed Admission program. As I said, lots of information on our website. And Kristen is always willing to answer questions. So please do email us. And you can certainly put in the subject line, follow-up question to GAP webinar, or I have a question about GAP, and we'll route that over to Kristen or the right person to answer that. So Kristen, maybe I'll just kind of end with a parting question for you. This is the new experience in the fall for our Guaranteed Admission program students. There's online options, there's savings, reduced tuition, there's a really robust virtual and enrichment community for our students. What gets you excited about this opportunity for students in the GAP program in the fall?
Oh, well, I think that it's the fall is it's kind of we're in a really interesting time right now. And I think that what gets me excited specifically about the online is that it provides students that stability. So they do not have this, what happened in the spring for many high school seniors, for many college students, not many, I think all. I don't know anybody that maintained the status quo, but there is it's a level of certainty that that if you're coming into the online classes, your format is not shifting. COVID is not going to affect the way that you're learning. And I should say that there is a distinction between virtual learning, which kind of happened in this makeshift way during the spring term with many students, versus online learning with the classes that we have in place, because these faculty have done this before. This is not new. This is not put together in a slapdash, last minute, how do we make it work sort of way. These were built specifically for that online environment. So I think that in and of itself is pretty exciting for students to have the opportunity to maintain their academics, to continue on the path, whichever path that may be, take it one step at a time, and also to have this known is exciting for them.
I agree with you, and I think the added savings is just a bonus for families to consider. So thank you, Kristen. Really appreciate your perspective. Thank you for working so hard for our Guaranteed Admission students and seeing their success through. And thank you for joining us tonight, everyone. If you have any questions, please do follow up in our email. And we will send this recording out and also the presentation as well. We look forward to hopefully seeing you in an application in our Guaranteed Admission program and seeing you this fall. Have a great evening. Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you.